This question says the volume of a cylinder is 225 pi centimeters cubed and its height is 9 centimeters. What is the length of the cylinder's radius? Okay, so we're dealing with volume. That means that we need to find the volume formula. And y'all, again, this is straight from the formula sheet. You don't have to have these memorized. You just need to know how to use your resources to find them. So here's our volume formulas, and we're dealing with a cylinder. So it's pi times radius squared times height. So we're just going to substitute in what we know. We know the volume is 225 pi, so I'm going to plug that in for V. Then we have pi times radius squared. We don't know the radius yet. That's actually what we're trying to solve for. So I'm just going to leave that as r squared. But we do know that the height is 9. So I'm going to plug that in for h. And then our goal here is to figure out what the radius is. So we're trying to solve this equation for r. And anytime we're trying to solve an equation, we want to get that letter by itself. So our goal is to get r by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of pi. And right now it's pi times r squared. And so the opposite of multiplying is to divide. And whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. Pi divided by pi cancels, leaving you with just 1 r squared. And then on this side, our pi's also cancel, leaving us with just 225. All right, remember, I'm still trying to get this r by itself, so the next thing I'm going to get rid of is the 9. And again, I'm multiplying by 9, so the inverse operation, or the opposite, would be to divide by 9. You always want to do opposite operations so that those cancel. So those would cancel, and then we would go to our calculator, and 225 divided by 9 is 25. I'm still trying to get r by itself. And r right now is not by itself, it's r squared. So now I need to get rid of the square. And so you have to ask yourself, what's the inverse operation to squaring, or what's the opposite operation? And the opposite of squaring is square rooting. The reason we did that is because the square and the square root cancels, leaving us with just r. And then if we take the square root of 25, it is 5. Now remember, anytime you take a square root, you get a positive and a negative answer. But we can't have a radius be -5, so our radius here would just be 5 centimeters. And y'all, if you wanted to check that, or let's say that this test question was multiple choice, you can always check it by plugging it back into the volume formula. So we know this is what it's supposed to equal. So we could do pi times the radius, which we said was 5, squared times 9. And we can multiply that in our calculator, 5 squared times 9, and we get 225 pi, which is what the volume was supposed to be. So that's a way to check it. It's also a way to solve it if it was multiple choice. You could just plug in each of your answers for the radius and see which one gave you the correct volume.